Late Night Health. This is the radio show that cares about the most important part of your life, your health. During the next 2 hours, the insane Daryl Wayne and I are going to take a look at a variety of health topics that literally touch each and every one of us. During hour 2, for example, we're going to talk about clothing made out of bamboo. Well, how does that relate to health? It's healing the earth because it's a renewable source. I wore a T-shirt over the weekend. It's the most comfortable thing I've ever put on. It really is. Kind of sexy. We'll also spend some time with the author of When Spirit Calls, Joan Diver. We'll be talking to her. And we'll be talking with Robert Clancy about when gratitude creates perspective. This hour, we're going to begin with Dr. Eric Branda. He's an audiologist. He's also the Director of Product Development for Sivantos in the United States. They own a number of hearing aid companies, including Signia. They own a lot of different arenas in the hearing area. I was looking at their website earlier, and the CEO said, has a quote on the website. And Eric, thanks for joining us. And I love this quote. We bring back the miracle of hearing. And I've not admitted this on the air or talked about it personally. I am hearing impaired. I have been for about, at least 5 or 6 years. When I put on my first pair of Signia hearing aids, I walked into my backyard, and I was telling Eric I heard something that I hadn't realized I'd been missing. I heard birds chirping. It was amazing, and I won't be without these. Eric, welcome to Late Night Health, and thank you. Is this a problem facing Americans and throughout the world, because you are an international company? You've got people in Germany, you've got people in Asia. Is this a problem of hearing and hearing loss worldwide?
Yeah, hearing loss is something, in the States we probably see around 48 million individuals with some degree of hearing loss. And over half of those could probably benefit from hearing aids. And you see this globally, because hearing loss is something, I say it doesn't discriminate. It can affect any age, any ethnic origin, and any gender. It doesn't discriminate. So you've got infants and seniors with hearing loss.
Every time I go into a hearing clinic, and I go into Bright Hear in Los Angeles, they are a sponsor here on Late Night Health, as Signia is. And what I'm really interested in is that even at my tender age of, let's say, over 40, over 50, I bring down the demographic of that waiting room by 30 years. Do people wait too long to get their hearing checked and make an adjustment?
I think people do tend to wait longer than they should. I hear different numbers around there, but on average, I would say people wait about 7 years or so before they start doing something about a hearing loss from when it first starts to be noticed or affecting them. It's usually, they don't think the issue's with them. It's my spouse mumbles, other people aren't talking loud enough, or they dismiss it, I just missed that, and it's before they really start to find a point where they realize they are missing things, and there are ways to help. And that's when hearing technology is typically the best approach for it, depending on the nature of the hearing loss.
My mother-in-law will kill me, but I believe she needs to, at minimum, to have her hearing checked. On a TV set, she'll have the level of audio up to 25 on her set, and somebody else in the family wants it at 9 or 10. And that alone says, hey, there's a problem. You got to get it checked out. Why is it that we, as people, as humans, why is it that we just can't accept hearing loss?
It's a question we ask a lot as well, because if you look at vision, you'll see people have vision impairments. They have no problem getting glasses, but I do think a lot of people internalize something with hearing that there's some stigma associated from maybe what they know from the past versus what's available today. If they look at hearing aids and hearing technology of the past, it's a sign of getting older to a lot of people. So they don't think of it as something that happens with young people, but as a sign of getting older. Older technology wasn't as appealing. I mean, in fact, if you look at some of TV and movies, my wife shakes her head at me because I cringe sometimes at what I see being depicted as modern on current mass media when that's not what's available in the technology. And the quality of time past wasn't as good as what we have today because we put a lot of demands on our hearing. We need to go into noisy environments and try to understand somebody when there's a bunch of other things acoustically happening around us. So there's demands there. As people do have any dexterity issues, we need to look at ease of operation. So you're looking at quality, ease, and they've always looked the same for so many years, and people aren't afraid to have something in their ears. Look at the types of earbuds people wear, but we've always had hearing aids look in a traditional style, and there's other ways we can make them look more appealing. So a lot of these things are preconceived stigmas that we've got improvements on, and I think it's important for people to know about those.
And we're going to be doing that over the next few months here on Late Night Health. I know that you have a new kind coming out in the next couple of months. I think I saw a picture of it, and it looks sleek and very, very modern, even more modern than the Charge N Go's that I am currently using from Signia, which are great. Let me ask you something, because you will know the answer to this, and that is basically what a hearing aid is doing is taking sound, amplifying it, and forcing it down a nerve. Am I wrong on that?
I would expand on that a little bit, that the basic piece that we have to, because there's a hearing loss there, we have to take a sound and make it louder, but not make it louder just as you would turn up the TV volume, but think of it more that we need to turn up maybe the treble as opposed to the bass, because maybe you don't have a hearing loss for the bass, but you do for the treble, and that's what we need to target on. And then deliver that to the eardrum, which then carries it along to the hearing nerve for the brain to understand and process.
But is that nerve from the hearing drum that we all studied, sometime in 6th grade, going to the brain, is that what's degrading, slowing down, dying?
Yep, so there's a couple different types of hearing loss, and typically what we talk about and address with hearing aids is what we would call a sensory neural hearing loss. So the eardrum vibrates and it sends those 3 bones into motion, and they send another membrane in the cochlea. They activate membranes in the cochlea and put that into motion, and that's what connects to the nerve that goes to the brain for processing. And it's usually areas within that cochlea that, if you think of the cochlea, because it's got that snail shape, if you remember from back from school,
right?
It has that snail shape, and you can almost think of it like a piano keyboard that's been all rolled up, and it goes from high frequencies to low frequencies. And so different portions of that, think about that as the keys on the keyboard aren't working as well. You might need to hit them harder just to hear it, where other ones might work perfectly fine. So we're letting the hearing aid try to basically hit those keys harder, so then that signal can be sent along the nerve. And
there's also understandability. Even though you make it loud, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to discern certain words.
Exactly, because when it comes to intelligibility and understanding speech, we often find the consonant sounds, your T's, your P's, your K's, your S's. Think of like a classic telegram that you don't necessarily need the vowels. You see those consonants, and that helps with the clarity or the understanding, where the vowels carry a lot of the power of the speech. So you may not hear you may hear the vowels okay, but if you don't get those consonants, it's not always clear. And the brain generally operates in, if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you've waited those 7 to 10 years to get some amplification, then you start putting on the hearing aids, which is good. You need to do that. And now getting the brain to start hearing these sounds again that it hasn't heard for years, well, it's got to start to relearn to work with those. So it becomes a bit of a process. So the earlier you can start amplification when there is a need for it, the better the prognosis, the better success for understanding and appreciating speech.
On the Signia hearing aids, actually have and I'm going to call it a discernibility mode. You can actually adjust that. You have the audiologist adjust that so that you can hear certain words. And as life changes, as you adapt to the hearing aid, you can have that adjusted to hear even better.
Yeah, because their hearing may change. So we want, for listeners that remember graphic equalizers on their stereo, and although we still see those in phones, we really let the hearing aid be able to tweak the bass and the treble up to different channels, so we can be very specific to what the individual hearing loss requires to make sure we can get those speech signals to somebody.
Gotcha. Has hearing aids really changed since the horn in the Civil War? You know, those old pictures of, hey, what did you say? And you see this big horn. Have they?
Yeah, they've changed considerably. If I look back to when I first started in this industry about 20 years ago, the technology was very basic. It was we had little potentiometers, little trimmers, just to kind of change the high frequencies or change the low frequencies a little bit. Now we've got 48 different channels that we can be very specific on what's processing in there.
And they are amazing. We have to take a time out. We are speaking with Eric Branda. He's an audiologist and director of product management for Sivantos. We're talking about Signia. The website is SigniaUSA.com, SIGNIA USA.com. We're going to be back here on Late Night Health in just a couple of moments. Don't you dare go away. More coming up. Join us at LateNightHealth.com.
Welcome to Guide to the Soul. This is Robert Clancy. You don't need to pray for a miracle. You just need to ask the Lord for enough strength to carry on, enough faith to accept the plan laid out for you, and enough love to lift your spirit over your obstacles. The miracle happens when you face your challenges with divine conviction in your heart. It's true that most of the universe is mostly shrouded in darkness. So when you discover an incredibly brilliant new star out there, marvel in that precious miracle. The most wonderful thing about love is that beautiful light is always right there within your precious heart. The miracle occurs every time you share that beautiful smile.
For more inspiration from Robert Clancy, visit GuideToTheSoul.com or go to the Moments with Robert page on LateNightHealth.com.
The latest from the greatest, the best in new music by classic rockers, with your host, the insane Daryl Wayne.
This is Alice Cooper, and if Daryl Wayne is insane, what does that make me? Criminally insane. Stick around to find out.
Many of the artist interviews for the latest from the greatest have been captured on audio book. There is a Volume 1 and Volume 2. Great information and conversations with people in the industry and people surrounded by the industry, and of course the rock stars themselves.
I'm the Reverend Al Green, and you're listening to the insane Daryl Wayne. And I said Wayne Insane.
You can find it on Amazon or Blackstone Audio. Search for the latest from the greatest from Daryl Wayne, DARRELL WAYNE.
Hello, this is Weird Al Yankovic, and you're listening to the insane Daryl Wayne, aren't you?